Oh, thank the Lord, Boolah Jesus, for finally releasing us from this range of shit and piss. Thank God, Jesus, man. I was actually like legitimately losing my mind over that range for the last month. Anyways, plenty to talk about today. Plus, of course, want to follow up on traditional markets as well, as we do hit our upside targets there. Plus, Bitcoin, and what else more do we have? Well, it is a weekend, of course, so I would like to wish you the best and the happiest of the happiest. Let's put the folks over here on the Krown application, which we found at app.krown.net. And what do we see? Yes, so the open interest yesterday was the big bad thing that we were putting an eye on, as it was above that $2.15 billion marker, and that was one of the 5 pieces of the puzzle suggesting that Bitcoin was going to be looking at a move pretty much sooner rather than later, of which did get the confirmation yesterday. And so all of the things that we're looking at over the past month, we're coming into a culmination, an apex in this second week of October. As I look at my calendar over here, I guess first week and a half, because it's 10th of October now, isn't it? But my point is that actually led up to a lot of very interesting plays, which we'll be discussing throughout this video. But the open interest was the first kind of portion of that, or I guess not necessarily the first portion of that. That was kind of like the second or third one to actually give it signal. But that does provide efficacy to this current breakout, as we do see it actually break above the current range that we've been looking at for the past month and a half. That range was between about 1.95 billion to 2.15 billion, with the B, that is, correlated with the price action range between about 10.1 and about 11,000 to the upside, of which we did break yesterday, also breaking the open interest range as well. And when we look at historical volatility percentile, when we look at Bollinger Bands, when we look at what else we're looking at, formations obviously as well, plus volume signature, all of those followed through. So good as good, I suppose. Anyways, looking at the Bitcoin dominance, did come down a little bit from about 58.5% to about 58.33% today. Really just oscillating between the range that is holding in, but I do want to do another round on the Bitcoin dominance chart, as I do believe that it holding its range right now while Bitcoin does rally up does suggest a few things. And with the fear and greed index also popping up 5 points, do we have anything to really be aware of right there? Now just in the neutral zone, still hanging out a 53 read. And with that in mind, let's go check out the data tab right here on the Krown application. And what do we see? Futures is increasing its premium over spot, as you would expect, and then also the funding rate actually getting up to a 0.05%, the highest that we've seen since about a month ago, I believe. 2 months ago, make that in August the 18th, when we were around this region. But still, this is not like a major thing or a major cautionary thing, in my opinion, as it's not until we get back above about 0.1, which is where we actually saw our last major high right here, by the way, at 12,500, or below negative 0.1, where typically major highs and major lows are set in. So in this case right here, we are, obviously trending to the upside, yes, but still has plenty of room to go there. But something to keep an eye on, especially with regarding like local tops within this current run that we're looking at right now. Anything else that I should be aware of? FEMEX, are you still the outlier of craziness? No, it looks like FTX and FEMEX a major step out there. So realistically, most exchanges are actually rather reasonable, 0.01% for Bybit, BitMEX, Huobi, and Binance, which are most of the big ones anyways. FTX obviously pretty damn big now, and FEMEX kind of came out of nowhere, and they're actually doing all right. But realistically, par for the course is more like 0.01%, and I would put significant interest on actually all of these guys right here, actually above what we see on FTX in general, especially for just a one standalone read. So with that in mind, let's actually go into the price action charts right here, and let's follow up on yesterday's analysis. So yesterday's analysis, I did say I was looking for an extremely short-term pullback back down to about 10.8 region. We didn't quite get there. We got about 10.830. So Krown's wrong again, or actually, hold on, where did we get down here? Yeah, about 10.830-ish region. So Krown's wrong again. No, but overall, looking for it to continue higher, as we did see a lot of things kind of suggesting that upside was going to be the resolution, especially with everything kind of grinding up towards this region around all these specific closures, of which the 12-hour was the big one that we were keeping an eye on. We did say a 12-hour closure above 11,000 or even 10,950-ish region, of which we did get yesterday right here, quite literally right here at about, actually this one did close at 11,050, did produce a continuation, which initiated that measure move all the way up to actually a little bit north of where we are right now at about 11,800-ish region, all the way up here. In fact, I think I have this more steadily put in on my CME chart. Yes, indeed. There it is right there. But with stops and plotted along the way, obviously CME is not trading over the weekend, so we're not going to see this price action represented right here, but it will open up and actually provide a couple of opportunities, I believe, as well, which we'll be talking about here in this video. But for now, I want to follow up on that price action. And Bitcoin did hit its first target at the 382, essentially around that 11,500-ish region. As we've been saying, the 11.5 region, or just basically all of the regions that were relevant in August of this year, are going to be relevant again on the way back up. So as Bitcoin does kind of, stutter its way forwards, this is what I'd be looking for. A little bit of a pullback off this region, especially seen as it is a weekend. But the breakout is real, as I have been getting a few questions about this. The breakout will first and foremost happen on a Friday, so that's not the issue, And second and foremost, there's a continuation right there. And obviously CME is making a new high on top of its current consolidation high, with this one getting a wick above 11,205. And our prior wick to the upside was 11,150. All of that looks good to me. I don't see any major reasons to be skeptical about this price, actually, especially with the way that we look at traditional markets as well. The big news was obviously NASDAQ and SPY futures taking out their prior weekly high, of which, we saw that literally just happen pretty much right after the video that I posted yesterday. And now it's a continuation signal likely for Bitcoin as well. So everything, operating in concert right here. And that, in some ways makes the market boring because everything just kind of trades together. But these were damn good, like canaries in the coal mines or parrots in the fucking car telling you that Bitcoin was going to break up higher here. So with that in mind, what does that lead up to for today, Friday? Friday. Wow, off to a bad start, man. How about Saturday? Let's try Saturday, Krown. Jesus, you dumb fuck. Can't you get your times right? I'd probably be looking for, a little bit of sideways here and probably back down. I don't know when it'll happen, but I would be looking for another test back down to about 11.2 region before Bitcoin does get its try up to its official measure move to the upside at about 11.8, which for whatever reason I don't actually have on this chart right here, which is the chart that we've been referencing, but it would be this area right here, and we'll just put a nice little blue box in there, and we'll keep that nice and safe. Good for some safekeeping. And so I wanted to reference a conversation that we were actually having yesterday in the program Discord, because this was really interesting. I was speaking with a guy, Craig. You probably have heard of him. He talks about his fucking dog too much, but I actually really like him because he's not afraid to represent counterpoints and not afraid to just say something, to just fucking say something. I like that a lot. But he said, Krown, why the fuck would you? Because I was talking yesterday about buying a straddle. He's like, I don't understand why you do that. Why not just buy a spot? Well, it's actually very, very simple. So I want to follow up on exactly why I did that yesterday. And by the way, I actually did end up buying that straddle right after the video yesterday. As soon as Bitcoin came down to that 10.8 level, I said, fuck it. And I'll tell you exactly why now. So here's what I was doing. Let's go back exactly where we were. So this is where we were yesterday, where we kind of left off, and that was kind of the area where I bought back down around, I guess 10,850. I bought the 10,750 straddle for about, I don't know, 200 or 250 bucks to go back and check, although I already did get rid of this put side on it. But more importantly, the reason why, as an options trader, I'd much rather buy a straddle within this region right here, which I very rarely do, by the way, extremely rare that I ever buy premium. But the reason why I did it here was because of all the 5 reasons that we spoke about yesterday. That was the historical volatility percentile, especially on the lower term timeframes right here, spiking back up. We saw it, go into major multiple single digit reads for, a long period on end over here on even the lower term timeframes. And of course, even on the medium term timeframes, like a daily, we see it coming in from single digit reads as well. And this typically does, is very, 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 very reliable, especially when you match it up with the other things, of which we have that in motion as well. We do have, of course, our formation right here, an ascending triangle, which I think is a little more visible on CMEs, but it getting closer and closer to that apex around that 70 to 75% filled marker would suggest that it's very statistically likely to break. That's what we see right there as well. Of course, volume signature also giving off another signal here too, of which we have it right here, getting to an apex, basically at the same time, suggesting that, breakout is to use a very bad term, imminent. Fucking hate that word. And then Challenger bands over here as well were extremely contracted up until this area, quite literally on yesterday. So all of those things working together with each other did suggest that it was time to be playing volatility, in my opinion. And so when Bitcoin heads up to the top side of its range, of its long-term range right here, that $11,000 region, the way that I think is that, okay, we have all these metrics suggesting that volatility is going to be spiking up here. We have all these sort of patterns and volume signature suggesting that we're probably going to see a big break here. We're basically at the culmination of baking in, a month and a half of consolidation, which is par for the course for Bitcoin, which typically does lead into these bigger moves. And so for myself, I don't really care that much about direction because I'm not necessarily like a Bitcoin moon boy. I think it's cool. I think it's great. And I'm happy to hold some, of course. And I just generally hold some, no matter what anyway. So I don't really, my trading stack is different, obviously, than that. that. But when it comes down to it, I'd much rather play something that's a more sure thing. What's more sure as Bitcoin pops up to the top side of this range is that it is going to have a major move. Now, whether you're bullish or bearish, I would rather not pick directions on that, because if you're bullish or bearish, what you can count on is a volatility spiking up, which means that if currently volatility is quite low and you're buying options, well, that's probably going to, it's probably going to explode their value anyway. So that's going to be good for you. You don't have to win on the direction. That's the point of it. So when you're at a range like this, while volatility is extremely low, suggesting that we are going to get a move, then there's one of two things going to happen. It's either going to blast up to the upside, which is what happened, obviously, or it's going to crumble back down, at the very least to the bottom side of this range once again. That's what I was looking for, essentially, in the sense that I don't care which way that it goes. I just care that it actually moves. So when you buy a straddle for, I don't know, it's probably like $250 in that region right there, you're going to make money as long as Bitcoin just closes, on one side of the range, of which all those metrics were suggesting that, hey, this is the time to, we're very likely to get a move right here. So after that happens, Bitcoin closes that 12 hour above 11,000. I don't close the put side then. What I do is actually spread out the put side. So I sell some out of the money puts a little bit below it. I did the 10,750 strike for my straddle. So I sold, I believe, like the 11,500 strike for my spread. And then once once the daily closed for Friday, officially, which closed, I believe, at 11,100, no, 11,050. Yeah. I had an alert set there, I had an alarm set there for just to interrupt my sleeping schedule, most because I really, really wanted this one, and I just ended up closing the long put there. So I have a little bit of a short put and a little bit of a long call, and I'll probably just end up just closing that short put soon enough, anyways, and probably even the long call too. I do not like holding these trades for a long time. I just like it in the initial move, and that doesn't mean that I can't continue upwards and onwards here, but it is just a weekly. So the way that I look at that is typically mostly premium, anyways, and what I really want to be looking for now that we actually have resolution on this range and we do have more clarity on the long-term direction, and Bitcoin seems to have really put in a very solid base at the $10,000 level, which is why I also have that rule that I will not, even though at times over here I was looking for this to actually break to the downside, my rule is, as long as this $10,000 base holds, I can't really, trade for that, opinion separation from trade, of course. And so all those things come together, but what I'd be doing now that we have that clarity on that on that long-term direction, is I'd actually want to be buying a little bit of spot, or maybe not spot, but just get more of a perp long on for perhaps a more long-term trade. So I'll be keeping an eye out coming into next week for a pullback back down to, especially where we closed at Friday, which is about 11,050, or anywhere between there and about 11,200-ish region, of which we probably do test down around there over the weekend. I really want to see the real trading week bring it back down there and then buy into it if I am going to do it. But of course, this is all, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'd basically just be playing the gap on CMEs right here, of which we're probably going to get something similar here to what we saw over here in July of 2020. Gap boys will not be learning their lesson once again, of course, because it's fucking Gap boy, it's a meme. Now gaps obviously are real, but the way that people play them are very silly in a lot of ways. And I don't say that to just piss any people off or to make fun of people, but people just have, like, I would strongly guess that a lot of people who are talking about gaps and making the fucking meme out of them, because they are real, but when they beat the fucking horse to death, it really hurts it, because I'd imagine that a lot of these people have never traded traditional markets, and that's where I come from. I actually used to be a market maker in equity options, New York Stock Exchange, ARCA, and so we had gaps pretty much every day, because there's an opening close every fucking day. You only get 6.5 hours of trading, by the way, in case you happen to know. And in this case right here, this gap was very clearly filled, because you're looking for the interpretation of a gap. In this case, it got front ran, and getting a bunch of wicks within this region around it is good enough. That's completely fine, and it's indicative that it is going to get picked up. It's going to get front ran, and well, in this case, we get to move to the upside. So again, I think that we're probably going to get something similar over here. And does Bitcoin come exactly down to where we closed out on Friday? I don't have a strong opinion on that. I just know that anywhere within that region is where I'm looking towards. Not because, again, it's even like a 100% guaranteed trade to work out. Just offers up a nice, easy way to be managing risk on it. As long as Bitcoin's above 11,000 now, the breakout's real to me. I have no real reason to be bearish on this asset. I have no real reason to be looking to do anything more than just a scalp short. And even before technically too, as the long term was still the long term. And it's also a good time to be reminding myself as well, as far as the long term goes, that the weekly is still crawling up above that yellow 20 minus 2 average. Sometimes things a lot of people hate things that are simple, but I found that a lot of the most successful traders that I know, they have relatively simple rules with regards to what they do. And in this case right here, here is one, well, I'd consider this a relatively simple rule for Bitcoin. You know, as long as Bitcoin's above the yellow 21 on the weekly and it has a positive slope long term, I mean, you know, just look at the results. I don't need to give you my interpretation of it. You know, you can look all the way back on over here from 2012 to 2014. It remains above price action and remains with positive slope, keeps you long the whole way through. Over here tells you about the bear trap. Over here keeps you long all the way from, you know, November 2015 to December or January of 2018, and then does the same thing to the downside right here, same thing to the upside, same thing to the downside, and then once again to the upside over here. So that is essentially the base, and seeing as that area is coming up above that $10,000 base right now officially, and going to even get a more positive slope, assuming that you know, we close here or higher, or just anywhere above 11,000 tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. This will obviously even increase its positive slope. Plus, momentum oscillators likely going to turn back around here too. We do see weekly Stokes getting around the edge of the bullish control zone and loosening their grips a little bit to the downside. Now, obviously, there is a trend line forming right here, but that's well and far away. So fair enough. You know, there is something to be aware of with that. But I would say that, you know, if you're taking an even more aggressive line like that, you could do something like this, and you actually would argue that we're already hitting it right now. Anyways, more importantly, I just want to highlight with regards to that, not necessarily like these very experimental trend lines, of which I put a little bit of weight on, but not a shit ton of weight on. More importantly, we are getting to the edge of the bearish controls, or sorry, the bullish controls, on which a lot of the time you just see, you know, counter trend pressure there by the nature of it, and that's, you know, the basics, very basic. Looking at the weekly RSI, we're gonna have a chance to confirm above the above the exponential as well, and likely get back into the bullish control zone here with any sort of a closure here or higher. Obviously, that's going to be pretty damn good too, as Bitcoin has been, as we've been saying, constructive over a long period of time on weekly RSI, more or less neutral as of the current times, which I mean, that's, you know, neutral as this neutral gets, and now as it's going to have a chance to actually close an official weekly above 11,000, which, by the way, CMEs have already done that, actually getting 11,100. I'd say it's likely to happen. It's likely to happen. We have, you know, we have a big short-term range here, but that's the beauty of being a short-term range trader for Bitcoin right now. As far as the long-term goes, looks to me like all is well and good. As far as 4-hour historical volatility percentile, you know, we were following this up for a long time. We did say that this regression right here was the one that was going to be resolved, and it did get resolved, and that's why it's good to draw on fucking historical volatility percentile, because you actually can get these things rather well. Even if you're taking the more long-term one, you actually could have you'd actually declare that one a breakout as well. But, you know, again, giving you the clarity on the situation that the breakout was, you know, going to happen in real, and this one actually was the first one to really give off its signal, because you really started to spike up above that area right here on this girthy green dildo, and so that was actually the first one. So historical volatility percentile told you first, then the apex of the triangle, the apex of the volume signature, and the open interest were kind of, you know, all there in like the second tier, and then the Trollinger bands. But I mean, the Trollinger bands were there the whole way too. I mean, Trollinger bands are going to usually operate with volatility anyways. I mean, they should naturally have confluence there, and as you can see, you know, getting it this tight, all of those things coming into view with each other. Well, there you go, and now we have the results. And I would even just I shouldn't say give, but I'd even just highlight this area right here, that Bitcoin's going to be trending to the upside on the daily as long as we're above, in an active trend, I should say, you know, actively pushing up, as long as we are above the top side Trollinger band. So as long as we're closing daily dildos above that area, which guess where it is, 11,200-ish region, I'm basically just generally bullish. You know, short-term pullbacks are going to happen, obviously. Things don't go up in a straight line, but I should also highlight over here on the daily that the MACD is going to push through the zero read and is increasing on the histogram, so there's not going to be any sort of divergences here to really be spoken about. We are in new territory right now. It's pushed through as far as you know, as far as I read that, and on top of that, to further confirm it, we do see that DMI plus is actually fully dominant on the daily right here, and ADX is strengthening alongside it. So if you are in the program and you do have access to this indicator, or I mean, this one also is pretty much free anyways. It's just with a few different settings. There's no like proprietary coding in this one, by the way. So you can reference this yourself. I just have, you know, special settings on it, I guess, which I can show you right now. It's no big problem. There you go. This, you know, typically does operate nice and well, especially for these little breakouts. So looking at that, you know, the crux of the message here is that I'm the breakout looks good. The breakout looks good. So what to look for in the short term right now then, because obviously it is a weekend and it's likely that there is going to be a little bit of ebb and flow here. And are we gonna head up to the are we gonna head up to the 11.8 target first before playing out a pullback, or are we gonna play out a pullback from here? Well, I'd say in the first hour of just kind of hitting this region, it'd be a little bit premature of me to make a call on that. But just going off the straight information that it is a weekend, I do think that Bitcoin will likely trade sideways here and then down a bit, and we set up for a nice Sunday pullback to around where CME's closed on Friday, and then game on once again. That's essentially what I'm looking for, and I have a general bullish bias boner as long as Bitcoin's closing dailies and 12 hours above. Let's just call it 11,000 to make it easy. So fair enough. But for right now, the only things on the lower term timeframes that are telling me that this current move may be coming to an end is the fact that historical volatility percentile is so fucking red right there. It's redder than the devil's dick, and that typically does signify that we're going to go into a small term contraction phase. In this case, that'll likely come with some downside action. Here's what the 2 hour looks like as well. Yep, we are in that same region here too, and again, same sort of thing implied. So I do think that maybe a little bit more sideways. Probably going to see a few more spikes up here, but as long as there's no closures on at the very least, I'd be using nothing less than a 12 hour right now because it is weekend. Anywhere as long as we're not getting any 12 hour dildo closures, let's call it above 11.5. You could maybe even use 11.420 as well. I wouldn't be looking for the full measure move to be hit until we get CMEs open. But actually, I do believe that this will get hit over time. It is a 236 fib here as well, so good confluence, and also lines up perfectly with the measure move coming out of this ascending triangle. And if you did stay until the full-on TA nerd session yesterday, well, here was the most obvious chart, right? This is your ascending triangle, and then boom, up. Looks good to me. Again, that's the beauty of looking at CMEs and seeing as we're already 20 minutes into this, it looks like it's TA nerd session once again, and there you go. This is why I put a lot more weight on CMEs. I know a lot of people say that, but CMEs don't have the trading volume. They don't have the fucking trading volume, Krown. Don't you know? Yeah, but it's also where all the professionals trade, and this is where a lot of people are going to be getting their big positions in for actual professionals who do have the equity and do have the capital to actually move these markets. So yeah, it does fucking matter, and I do stand by that quite significantly. Just ask yourself this question: if you disagree with that statement, is this chart easier to read than this chart? That's right. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, long term, what does this look like then? Let's go to the monthly. Let's go to the monthly. How does this change anything? Hey, get out of my face. Don't really see anything too crazy here. Do want to be aware of last month's open. That is 11,650. That's kind of around that 11.8 target, but not quite exactly where I would expect it to be. What about the bi-monthly? That's actually going to be closing at the end of this month. Yeah, okay, this is the one I was looking for. This is the one that confirms my beliefs already. Hold on, let me just put on this, and we're going to get rid of the 10 simple. Okay, so the 9 exponential moving average, which what I'm representing with the yellow moving average right here, is something that my mentor used to use for long-term charts like weekly, monthly, and in some cases for stocks that you really have super long-term histories like 30, 40, 50 years plus on the quarterly and even yearly sometimes too. Anyways, in this case right here, you can see that the 9 exponential moving average has been generally good actually for Bitcoin. On the monthly on the bi-monthly as just getting the lows and holding it up. I think that we'll see actually the same thing on the monthly as well. So can actually just extend that. Yes, indeed we do. But the bi-monthly, I think, is just a little bit more obvious right here. Flows a little bit better as well. And where do we come back down to on this bi-monthly low? Basically around the 9 exponential moving average. So as long as we're above there, and by the way, that is the low $9,000 region. All good. It's just a backfill on last bi-monthly open. And to me, with matching this up with momentum oscillators, well, looks good to me right there. What about bi-monthly RSI back into the bullish control zone for the first time in a while? And if we actually pair that up with the monthly here too, we should naturally see relatively the same things. There's your monthly Stokes, nice and healthy into the bullish control zone. There's your monthly RSI, looking very constructive over a long period of time. And I would imagine that the next push into the bullish control zone is going to stay in there for quite some time. This is very constructive over a long period of time. But again, when we're talking about a monthly, I need to be very, very careful here. But I trust that because of where we are in the TA nerd session right now, that this is is, this is cool to talk about, or more nuanced things are cool to talk about. But long term, when we're talking about a monthly, we're really talking about, like 3 months to half a year out for signals like that. So it's in the cards, and things are things are shaping up to be nice and good. So I do believe that most markets going to be heading up right now. And let's go back very quickly here to traditional markets. And does this change anything? So about a month ago, I did call a top at about 12,500 right here, of which it did put in a long-term top, yes, which led into a reaccumulation zone. Is that going to hold as a top? It still could hold as a top, yes, but I'll tell you where my mind changes about that. And personally speaking, do I think that this is going to be the next macro high? Probably not. No. The reason why I say that is because of the way that we're acting right now. But here's what I can really truly stand by. Do I think that we're going to extend all the way up to $12,000? Yes. As long as we're below $12,000, technically speaking, do we still have a high end? Yes. Technically speaking, yes. But the second that we get a closure above $12,000, new all-time highs are going to be coming in for NASDAQ. That's going to lift up the rest of the markets. This whole fucking thing works in concert. You already know this. Everything moves together, and I imagine that SPY is going to be the same bullshit as well. And yes, indeed it is. We said yesterday a move up to about 3,500 would be likely coming into the next week, and I mean, actually, you just got there yesterday pretty much to 3480-ish region. I'd be looking for this one to continue up a little bit more as well. Let's actually put this baby back on. Give me my 10 simple back, please. And let's go back to the 21 exponential moving average right there. Okay, nice one. And there we go. Looks lovely. So that's essentially, what I'm looking at and kind of governing the long-term direction. We also identified an inverted head and shoulders here, and also a inverted head and shoulders here as well. That was giving that bullish bias boner to the upside coming into Friday and more importantly next week as well. I do think that this one has a little more to go before its next short-term pullback, somewhere around 11.8 to 11.850-ish region. And then if that area gets taken out, I'd extend that move all the way up to 12,000 even. Looking at the weekly, I do think that it will hit 12,000, and I'd be looking for a greater pullback from there. And then I'd want to see it again after that. But yeah, things are operating in unison, and that is more or less a good sign. If we had any sort of bifurcation, if we had any sort of like outliers, or if Bitcoin was going one way and traditional markets were going another way, that would be cause for concern. But we don't see that. We see all major assets, all major commodities kind of trade in the same direction. Here's our tech sector as well, just blasting up through the top side here too. Probably going to be getting for 121 next week, or sorry, no, that's 122. Short-term pullback probably implied around 121 though. What else do we have? Do we want to look at financials? Probably not. Doesn't really matter right now. You can look at all the major indices right here. They're all operating well. We spoke about this yesterday with Russell 2000. Good. Probably popping back up towards 1680-ish region. I'd still stick with that over the next month or two. NYA, what are we looking at right here? Probably short-term pullback, but long-term gunning for the 13800-ish region. What about triple Qs? Same chart to the fucking NASDAQ and SPY futures. Probably guns up for about 290-ish region, or sorry, what is that, 293? Yeah, somewhere around there would be good. And I'd imagine gold also had a nice day yesterday as well. And what do you fucking know? Gold has a nice goddamn day. Now, what I hate about this, what I motherfucking hate about this, oh dear God, man, you fucking euro dollar, you're probably gonna break out to the upside, aren't you? You piece of garbage. Oh, bastard. Fuck me. Just go down, please. God damn it, man, I'm gonna have to switch all my money. This one closing above the 10 simple and having a little bit of a fake out right here. Is this going to turn into a macro high still? Is it still in the cards? Yes, obviously it is still in the cards, but I'm skeptical of it now. I am skeptical of it now, basically because of the way of everything else that's acting within the world. Could it be that we see euro dollar have some medium term upside here and still put in a macro top while everything else goes to the upside? Yes, possible, absolutely. But I'd say that definitely diminishes the case. So for right now, I really can't be bearish on this one as long as we got weekly closing above 117 region. I wouldn't necessarily be bullish looking for a big move to 125, I believe it was. Yeah, one and a quarter all the way up towards this region right here. Yeah, one and a quarter until we close a weekly above 119 and a half. But with the way that it's acting right now, I wouldn't want to fade I wouldn't want to fade the market just just for that when everything else seems to be going in the other direction. Dixie, where's my Dixie chicks? Yeah, popping back down as well. So this one is going to fail. We probably do see another retest down towards about 92 and a quarter, or anywhere around this trend line right here. This being the long-term trend line coming in from the last major lows, also around the monthly 200 exponential moving average as well. I would be looking for a bounce there though, so that likely does mark off our next local high for the long term actually. So anywhere around here, in fact, I'll actually just put in an alert right now just to be able to see. I'll put it at 92.4, so a little bit above where I'm looking for, and I'd be looking for a big bad bounce on there. Yes, hidden bullish divergence still is present on this one. Yes, historic volatility percentile is expanding from an extremely low read. Multiple actual 0-digit reads actually throughout the beginning of 2019. But is this one just going to shadow back down? If it does, then 90, just below 91 is where I'd be looking for the next target. But is that going to hold or not? I don't know. This is more indicative of something weird going on in the global financial system, or I guess more so with it's gonna affect the global financial system, but more so with what America's doing right here. So with the elections coming up and everything, that's probably gonna drive markets quite a bit, and it is a pretty big question mark right now. I know that polls are saying that Biden's gonna win, and this is not a political statement. I'm not a political person. I literally don't support either of these people like at all. Really don't support them. Really don't like either one of them. I'd rather just not vote. Or if there was like a viable third party candidate, maybe they might even represent my views. Who the fuck knows, man? Although maybe it's just better to do this fucking online. Why are we voting for like a king when we could just do it online and like vote issue by issue? But then again, there's gonna be a big issue with like people actually. It's democracy. It's a fucking terrible form of government, but it's the best one that we have, apparently. So fair enough, man. But I would imagine that, whoever wins the presidential election is likely going to drive direction on this. So if we are going to see any sort of like weirdness happen, I'd imagine that it would be from an unexpected result. And right now, the expected result is that Biden will win. However, I'm sure that a lot of people know from 2016 that polls maybe not the most dependable things of all time, as Trump kind of won, by quite a large margin, even though polls were saying that he was going to lose by a fucking landslide. Could that be happening again? Well, it could be happening again, actually, because the polls are saying the same thing. They're saying that he's going to lose by a pretty wide margin. And, you look around and I don't know, man, just speaking offhand here, and let me know if you agree in the comment section, especially if you're American. Like, I don't really find anyone who is really excited about Biden. I see a lot of people excited about Trump, 'cause it's very interesting. Some of the smartest people and some of the dumbest people I know support the same presidential candidate. Guess which one it is? Guess which one it is? It's really strange, actually. It's really, really strange. I'm not even saying that as an endorsement at all. I do not endorse either one of these people. I really don't like them. I really think that these people are like, I just don't understand. I just don't understand how out of a country of 350 million people, this is our choices, or I mean, this is the illusion of our choice. Actually, better said, perhaps. I mean, what the fuck, man? Just insane. Just fucking insane. If that doesn't tell you that we live either in a simulation or some sort of fucked up world, well, there you go, man. I don't know what else to tell you. Fair enough. We can just agree to disagree. So with that in mind, have I said my piece today? Yes, mostly yes. Let's go check out, someone asked for Monero yesterday. We can look at Monero. I'd imagine that's probably one of the better actors, just because it's one of the ones that's actually stood the test of time, to be fair, and I do think that does count for quite a bit. Where's my fucking Monero? There it is. Where's my Monero? Dude, where's my Monero? Oh wow, this one's setting up for a humongous breakout. Actually, this one actually looks a little better than Bitcoin on the weekly. Any sort of a closure above 118, this one's going to see a mass. Oh my god. Short term, I'd be targeting to move up to like what 137 or wherever this wick high is right there. Yeah, sorry, 130. But long term, probably like long term, like months out. Okay, again, we're in the teeth nerd session, so I shouldn't have to. I should feel fine by saying that, but I always feel like, oh shit, I need to, I need to explain this clearly. But long term, speaking like half a year to a year out, if that condition is met, I'd actually be looking for it to play all the way up to here, with the short term target up here, and it's probably going to play out of range there for a while. But again, this is very constructive on the lows right here. My raspy lesbian voice is coming up right now. Do I have any water? No. Fuck. All right. Well, whatever. Okay. What else do we want to look at? Mr. Linkies. What did we say yesterday? Short term up. We did say short term up to about 92,000 Satoshis. That was overshot, I believe. Did I say short term up yesterday? Actually, I forget. I believe I did. This was looking for a short term bounce. Yeah. I'd be looking for this one to probably give a little bit of a try or higher, actually. Daily Stokes are pointed north once again, and daily RSI is neutral. It's basically neutral. Daily Jewel, though, bouncing it off. And by the way, I think I forgot to follow up on yesterday's daily Jewel buy signal. For all the Jewel haters out there, well, there you go. Once again, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't take those signals myself in the short term areas like this. But hey, good one nonetheless. Especially with all these guys getting a positive slope, or I don't know what their genders are, but all of them getting a positive slope at the same time. Good to go right there. And with that in mind, you can even look at the daily historic volatility percentile read, and I realize here that I do have some sort of a trend line in here. I don't think that this one is relevant. I think that was relevant to the 4 hour, but you can see that we are going to be getting into a little bit of a difference of behavior there as well. So all these things working together and more. I suppose we'll probably end the day with looking at Mr. Buterol. Where you at, Mr. Buterol? Where the fuck are you? Or sorry, I didn't really finish link. Is it finding a short-term top right here? Yes, indeed it is. Probably does come back down towards 89,000 Satoshis. But daily, do we get continuation of the upside? I know I just initially did say that, yes. But the more that I look at it, the more I get a little bit more skeptical. I'd be looking for a short-term down. Let's come back to it tomorrow and reanalyze it. But yeah, short-term down to about 88,000 Satoshis. I want to see it after that. I want to see the reaction after it hits that region, and then maybe some more upside targets. Or some downside targets. Let's see, what else we got? Mr. Buterol over here at 375, taking out the last prior high on the 1st of October. Nice one. I'd be looking for this one to extend its gains, probably up to about just below 390-ish region, and then play out a greater pullback from there. Short term, though, do we play out a pullback back down to about 369 before another try to the upside? Probably yes. And I'm generally bullish on this one as long as it's above the 200 simple and 200 exponential average. Now, this one was the one that was looking a lot more inherently bearish this week, but here's the thing. With that death cross being essentially a fake out right here, and really just boosting up to the upside like really fucking fast after that, that's usually gonna be a good sign that we are gonna be running the other direction. So yeah, fake out got me, man. Would have got me really, really good right here. I actually would have taken a short based off this if I was trading this asset. Thank God it wasn't, because, well, it actually did work out in your favor a little bit, but definitely not for the move that I'd be looking for. So fair enough right there. But Mr. Buterol, anything else to be aware of right here? I think the big news on this one is that we actually took out the last major high on a weekly schedule. What are we looking like? Doesn't look as strong as Bitcoin, but any, as long as it rides the 21 to the upside on the weekly, can't really hate it. And any sort of a weekly closure above the 10 simple, that's obviously going to imply further continuation over the next month or two, back up to about 430-ish region, perhaps even beyond on top of that as well. So, this weekly closure is going to be pretty damn important for clarifying the more immediate direction, and kind of really turning on a lot of the green lights, in my opinion. But for right now, still have to be a little bit patient with that one. I think that Bitcoin's an easier chart to read, or at least, sorry, it's not an easier chart to read. It's a more accurate chart right now for what we're looking at. Bitcoin was obviously more bullish. Mr. Buterol was looking a lot more obviously bearish. So, looking at this right here, and it's probably time for me to wrap up my thoughts. Yes, indeed it is. Short term, probably a little bit of sideways. I don't really have a strong opinion on the short term, but if I did call it, maybe a little more sideways, maybe another spike back up here, but probably no closures, at least on a 12-hour above 11,450 or 11,500. Let's just make it 11,450 actually, because that is a bit more accurate. As long as there's no 12-hour closures above 11,450 today, I would be looking for this one to play out a little bit of sideways and then down coming into Sunday, at which point that's where I do start to get interested once again, as I do believe Bitcoin will probably pull back down to around 11.1 or 11.2, and I would be looking for a bounce there, and then sometime into next week I'd be looking for this measure move to the upside somewhere around 11.8 to get hit. If Bitcoin does close a 12-hour dildo above 11.450, 50 today. Then I'd be looking for 11,800 to get hit. Probably sooner rather than later. I don't think that we're going to pull back first. Obviously, we're going to hit this target first and then pull back. But with the way that kind of things are situated right now, and the way that it is the weekend and everything, and CMEs aren't trading right now, I'd probably be playing this one safe, and I'll probably just end up getting rid of my long calls too, just because I'd rather play an actual position instead, now that we do have clarity on the situation. So with all of that in mind, I would like to wish you the best of the best. I would like to wish you the happiest. Obviously, I forgot to mention like the downside displeasure points as well. Anywhere below 11,000, bad. There you go. And with that in mind, I'd like to wish you the best. Take care, and until next time.